Welcome back to another episode of Pulse of Polynesia. I'm your host, Leaso coming to you live from Texas. Tonight, we're diving deep into the heart of Tutuila, its histories, its legends, and the untold stories that still shape our people today.
Yeah, Talofalava, Chief Tazi from Oklahoma. So from colonial clashes to haunted schools, from tragic crashes to the resilience of our children walking miles just to get an education. We'll cover it all in tonight's special. Let's dive in.
Tonight, we're going back to 1920 and into the halls of the government house in Pongo Pongo. This is the story of a Navy man who came to rule our people but never understood us. His name was Governor Warren J. Terhune. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He thought he could run Samoa's the Navy way, strict by the book, but in the end he found himself surrounded by enemies, rejected by chiefs, and trapped in his own home. Oh, and on November 3rd, 1920, he took his own life right there in the government house. And some say his ghost still walks through the grounds at night. What do you say, Chief Tassi?
Yeah, no, this is a great topic that we want to bring up because it's been a while. I know some of these stories, again, every time we talk about our Tutuila stories, it seems like a distant past. And we look at our younger generation, every time we share our Tutuila stories, to us, it doesn't seem too long ago. But the younger generation, when they hear it for the first time, they're always in awe. So, for the most of Samoa history, anytime you do a search or what you found in videos, you're always going to hear the word Mau. And Mau is the resistance or a movement, sort of like a protest, for our viewers who are not familiar with the Samoan Mau is. But a lot of people understand the Western Samoan Mau and the tragic of what occurred there, but very few understand the Tutuila Mau. And again, we will isolate Tutuila as our focal point tonight. Take nothing away from our brothers out west, Samoa, in Samoa. Again, we know most of Samoa stories, which is why we choose to share Tutuila stories because Tutuila stories are not very popular or shared across the Pacific. So we're just trying to revive some of these old stories for our viewers. So again, this one is what led up to the Tutuila Mau. And what's unique about this one is everything was targeting the government of Samoa at the time. So if you recall, the original government of American Samoa was ran by the Navy, and this is one of the Navy officers who was placed in charge and became a governor. So um, this is the gentleman right here, and there was a lot of resistance, a lot of backlash by his means of authority, the different types of policies that he put in play, and one of them, one of the unique ones was his policy on his sailors or his naval um, naval men marrying the Samoan women. It was something that he didn't agree with, and a lot of the Samoan people were frustrated with that. What are your thoughts on that, Eliaso?
I thought that was kind of, well, somewhat racist, I believe. It's kind of, they didn't want, because from what I've read from other histories, they didn't want the Polynesians to interact with the foreigners because they felt like we were monkeys, and just words of what was said in the history book, not history books, but these books that are not told in history. And so they just felt like it was well, let's just say it was just very racist. I just didn't like that. My ancestors are, from, well, of course, like everybody else, from German
Hmm.
and Ireland. So yeah, it
Yeah,
wasn't good. I would be so upset because it just made me feel very little compared to them. So yeah.
yeah. And then we always talk about the baby boomers, right? After war, soldiers come back and they're having a bunch of kids. So these are results of the war, and something similar also occurred in Samoa. But let me jump and cover this real quick. If you can pull that back up, Leaso. Just
Okay.
always want to acknowledge our viewers. Good evening, Pulse of Polynesia family. Hello, Janet from Oklahoma. So, but I want to stay on this topic because what was the result of that policy? Now it almost gave the sailors a free pass, right? A free pass to have children out of wedlock without
Yeah.
having any responsibilities of taking care of that child, right? So I'm not forced to marry this woman. I got you know I impregnated this Samoan
Yeah.
woman, but because I'm not forced to marry her, the responsibilities aren't there. So that was one of the other issues that um, I found. I can see why our chiefs were frustrated.
Well, I think a lot of it too was the fact that you just didn't feel like it just didn't feel very humane, right? And you're talking treating pretty much everyone like little kids
Hmm.
and not giving them the free agency, not giving them the rights to be able to fall in love with whoever you please. And instead, like what you said, that just causes a lot of not incest. I can't believe I said that. It just causes a lot of rift within families because then they go around, like what you said, they won't get
Hmm.
married to them, but they end up impregnating these women. And so yeah, I mean, it's that's just very sad, especially us being very cultural in religion. And so when Christianity was introduced,
Right.
that just makes everybody look down at that person for being with someone who you're not married to. And so, yeah, that's not a good thing.
Yeah, and I just want to reach out to our viewers. If you're familiar with the subject, feel free to share with us.
Mm-hmm.
The part that I want to understand is because this was a very question that was also asked during the Mau, but staying on the same topic. So now you have these kids that were born and they're fatherless, and they're now the Afakasi kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're now feeling out of place. But the question I have is not understanding what was the feeling at the time.
Yeah.
Are the Samoans upset with the sailors or the governor for not having these, sailors own up to the responsibilities? Or is that frustration taken out on the kids, these Afakasi kids, were they considered equal, right? Because you would think that
Mm.
the Samoans would be upset that you've abandoned these kids. How were those kids treated? So um, that question did
Yeah.
come up
Where's my
because,
daddy?
yeah. What do you think,
Sorry, I
So
just Yeah, that is pretty sad. I mean, especially when you're around a village and everybody talks, right? And so it's like you don't want to be the outcast because you have a baby and you have no father and like what you said, some men will take it as a free pass to just impregnate and not be down by having to marry because of impregnating a woman, right? So yeah, that's the
yeah,
downfall of it. I could see that.
yeah. To fast forward, the answer to the question was when the U.S. sent their, I think it's called the commission team to interview
Mhm.
our chiefs during the Mau, and the question was, how do you perceive the Afakasis, right? Do you guys welcome the Afakasis? Are the Afakasis considered Samoan to you? And the answer was yes, right? The Samoan chief said, of course. All these kids that were born, although fatherless, they're Samoan regardless. And I think they also
Yeah.
started to ask questions: are they entitled to land ownership? Because we're very sensitive about land ownership, and I think Samoan chiefs also answered favorably for our Afakasi. So for you Afakasis out there, um, you were accepted. So uh, the question was sort of rhetorical. I was hoping to get an answer from our viewers, but the answer is yes. Our Samoan people, our chiefs, and our families did accept those kids, although some of them were fatherless. Not all of them, because some were,
Not all of them.
broke tradition, naval tradition, and still owned up to their responsibilities. Yeah. Um, there was another issue on
Yes.
Governor Terhune. What was the other issue that happened? Didn't
So
he
the other
remove?
issue that I've learned was he tried to ban the phono because he felt like they were plotting against him.
Right.
And so
Okay.
they didn't want that. So that caused a lot of rift with
Hmm.
the chiefs, the Matais.
Yeah. And from your perspective, you know, was it because he didn't feel like our leaders were capable of governing ourselves? Was it something in that nature?
I feel like he was meant to he just wasn't a good leader, and having to govern.
Hmm.
Let's just say he just wasn't confident in his work.
Hmm.
And so everything was suspect to him. And so he probably took like our having to have the phono, our tradition. He didn't understand the language too, I bet, at the same time. And so he felt like he knew like what was going on in Western Samoa, that something similar was going to happen in American Samoa. And so that's the reason why he stopped, that was to prevent any forces that were going to go against him and cause even more problems and war. And so yeah, he wasn't a good person to be a leader because he just wasn't very confident
Yeah.
in his work. So
And I think I read something that also stated that you can't really blame any military person, right? And this is what the
hmm.
military is terrible at. We send our servicemen and women. We're good at war. We're good at blowing up stuff and destroying things.
Yeah.
That's what we do, right? But the problem we run into as we try to when you tell them now go and rebuild or now go and act as a acting mayor, right? It's not what they
Hmm.
teach you, right? They really don't teach you these types of things.
Mm-mm.
What do you have here?
So I just put the list up there of what.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we just did the interracial one, and then the ban the phono.
Hmm.
And so, and these, by the way, people, these are my notes after doing my research, so they'll come after me.
No, that's good stuff. Yeah, and starting to recollect some of the things that I came across as well. Going
Hmm.
back to what I stated, military men. I think it also stated like he was sent to war college, right? So everything he learned was he was a great person, managing a battleship, right? To go and destroy. All right, let me
Yeah.
hold my thought. Let me see what's this. Uh, Something about
Oh,
our
let me put it
song.
up again. Yeah. She meant to say is.
Okay, is that was there a song about the sailor? Um, there is a song. Actually, there is a song,
Mm.
but I'm not sure if it actually applies. But yeah, and I think the song. Actually, I was looking this up earlier. Are you able to play anything from your end, or if I play it, would it come across for our viewers if I played it?
Yeah, go ahead and play. Yep.
Let's see. Let me try to play this and leave. You let me know, Leaso, if it comes out on your end.
Okay. I
Yeah.
can't hear it. No, I can't hear it. Unless, can you play it on your phone or?
Okay. Well, I'll drop it in the chat. How about that?
Okay. Okay, sounds
And
good.
maybe you can play it on your end, and let's see.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's try this.
So, in the song I
Hear
came
that?
across, Tene Ole Atunu. Tene Ole Atunu, for those who are familiar with it.
Can you hear it?
I don't hear it.
Okay. Okay, so I have to download that song and put it in here for it to play.
Did you hear what I just say?
What?
I don't even know if that was proper English. I said I don't hear it.
Yeah, I don't even, so I don't know. It's Teine ole atu nu'u, right? Is that the
Yeah.
song?
Yeah, so the song goes about, "So sola uma tene," or "So sola uma sela I meleke," which means all the sailors have returned to America, and "Tia i oe ile ala tele," which meant dumped you at the side of the road, right?
What?
Um, uma foi uma foi temi it's a fete. It's almost like your time is up for showing up, around that sailor because he's gone, and then something about, you know, it's like teasing a girl because she was showing off when she had the sailor guy. So
Let me play it one more time, see if this one works on my phone.
okay.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
Holy smokes, I never thought about that.
but you've heard of this song, right?
Yeah, yes, but I never thought that that was what it was about. That's crazy.
So for our viewers, if there is anyone out there, I think that's what the question was. It's a plausible song. It sounds like it. What does David Chappelle say? It has the symptoms of it. It shares
Wow.
similarities. Um, it does sound right because was there another time where the sailors were in the States or in Samoa, right?
Mm,
That's the only time. Well, they were there later on for World War II. So there's two possibilities that could apply to this time frame. It also can apply to later on during World War II. So right now
yeah.
we're gonna say 50%. Where you're at 50%, but it was good. It was a good topic. Someone's gonna come out here later on and tell us yes or no. So
You know what? That explains a lot too with when the Germans were in Samoa, there was a lot of interactions with the Germans, and I wonder if there was a law set on having the Germans. Well, no, because that was way before America came and took over. Okay, never mind. Squash
yeah.
that. I just realized something. Okay.
But you're sort of correct because a lot of the songs are always talk about pre the seeding of the islands, right? So they're
Hmm.
always trying to bring up our 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 history when we were one. So I would say that's also a possibility.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
And the marriage ban. Okay, and there was something else I came across because at the time the governor was also in charge of the local governors, right? So the local governors were like the governor of the east and the governor of the west. And I think the governor of the east was Moma, right? Moma Moi Moi,
Hmm.
if I'm right. And then the governor of the west side was, I believe, was Tuitele. And I think because they were protesting or part of the Mau or a lot of the resistance,
Hmm.
and he wanted men that he can control, and I think he removed them, and that's what really riled up the Samoans because these are their, you know, two top chiefs of the island, and
Yeah.
I couldn't recall who he had put in place, but that was another reason. But didn't he have? Wasn't there a naval like executive officer or someone below him?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So there were three other people who were a part of his staff. And
Okay.
I think one of them, I think his name is Andrew. I gotta take a look at my notes.
Hmm.
But or what I put he yes, so it was okay, it's not Andrew, it's Arthur. So it was Lieutenant Commander Butcher,
Okay.
his assistant. He wanted his job. He accused Terhune of abuse and corruption. And then the other one was a journalist, Arthur Green. He
Mm.
started feeling Samoan resistance and writing against him. So, and then you have Commander Kale even tried to get doctors to declare him insane so he'd be removed. So these three people were instigators, I feel like. And so they couldn't get rid of him, so what did they do? They try to go and try to get allies within our own people,
Mm.
and try to spread rumors and to
Actually,
ruin his reputation.
I think Leaso, I think these were actually part of the Mao movement. These guys were supporting the local chiefs who were wanting to remove him. So I think,
Hmm.
if I'm right, I believe the lieutenant commander is the one that reported him back to to the states and said,
Yes,
come in and investigate. And
yes.
I see your notes a little bit up, go up a little bit where you said Mao
Okay.
movement. Yeah, you see that? So good notes right there. This was the early beginning of the Mao movement, peaceful
Yes.
resistance asking. So, tying back to what I was saying earlier, these guys were part of the Mao, and they were supportive of the Samoan resistance, right? So they
Mhm.
were the ones that alerted the United States, send someone to investigate what's going on, with this corrupt leadership. I don't know if it's corrupt, just poorly managed government, right?
But they were also spreading rumors saying that he was being corrupted in a way of stealing money with
Mhm.
the I believe what's it called, the copper coconut.
Yeah.
Yeah, a copper tax, dealing with the coconuts.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there was these three were a big factor in causing a lot of the making this rift even worse for the poor guy. I mean, I don't know if I should say
Okay.
poor guy, but yeah, you know.
And somewhere I came across part of the leadership of the Mao were exiled, and I think Ripley, I believe, was the chief in Leone,
Yes.
and there's another one. Oh, I think there was another name that was important that came up was Arthur Young, right? Was it Arthur Young?
Arthur Young. Okay. And so they were exiled and sent to another island. Is that what you're saying, or to another
Yeah, they were
country?
exiled because of their strong influence, part of the Mao. So they felt like, maybe this is one of the
Mm.
strong leaders. Let's keep him away. He's stirring up
Mm.
trouble. And I think Arthur Young. I was getting my Youngs wrong. And the other
Mm.
day we were talking about the Youngs, and someone said Steve Young, the 49ers quarterback. I was like, no,
Oh,
not
Steve
Steve Young.
Young. Yes. There's a documentary about, by the way, about these NFL players. So anyway, Steve Young was in there.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that the Young, he was the last one that was he went and he tried to register the title, the Tui Manua title, because remember, Young was the younger brother of Makelika, which is the female Tui Manua before um, Elisala, right? Elisala was the last Tui Manua,
Wow.
but prior to that was a female, and she passed away young. And then the younger brother, who wanted to reinstate the title later on, I think he was also part of the Mao. But eventually, when he was going through his case, I know it's separate from the Mao, but his case, which is interesting to us, is he tried to revive the Tui Manua title. And of course, the government, their fear of reestablishing the Tui Manua,
Mhm.
decided, no, let's not do that, right? So, I mean, it's one of
Okay,
those
so
trivia. One of those trivia. Who was the last Tui Manua? You can almost give him the claim because he was trying to register the title.
wait. So you lost me at the part where Young was trying to register to get the Matai title of Twin Manua. Is that what you're saying?
Mhm.
So when you say Young, Young is like a Palangi last name. So was he Afghasi?
Yeah, they're Afghasi,
Okay. Okay.
and they were. I think the dad was some business person, and that's how he had a lot of influence. They resided in Tau, and
Okay.
so that's sort of their ties to the Manua side. And eventually, the daughter, you know, held the title to Manua briefly. And that's one thing. I know we're talking about Tutuila, but let's sort of umbrella Mangua, right? Mangua is always saying,
Yeah.
"Don't put me together with Kukuila." But forgive us, Mangua. I'm also a descendant of the Mangua side. Our family's in Tau and Fituta, so I'm
Mhm.
gonna briefly cover Manua here. I'm not saying you're Tutuila because Mangu and Kukuila are different, but just briefly talk about the Tui Manua line and how when Tui Manua Makelika was one of them. She had a brief, from what is told,
Uh-huh.
she had a tragic death, and some
Wow.
people speculate that you know going back to the taboo, like were you really part of that family? That how did you gain yourself into that line? So that's just part of the argument. People say she had a tragic death because they weren't part of that family line. The two
Wow.
lineage. But of course, depending on who you talk to. So hopefully we haven't offended the young family with what we shared today. Okay.
These are just information that was made public and shared. So, I
Yeah.
mean, and then you have, of course, people that are, skeptical because that really is something that everyone talks about. If you're not related, people will say stuff like that, that it's probably because, the bloodline or whatever, but we don't know. So,
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that we wanted to cover under Governor Terhune? I think his suicide. So we forgot about his suicide.
yes,
So
yes,
they send these you know naval administrators to investigate, and as they're on their way to Kukuila to interview him, he takes his revolver or his firearm, and he commits suicide in the office. Right?
yes. It's
It's
so,
yeah. Go ahead.
this is the first governor, right, that ever committed suicide in
Hmm.
American Samoa as a governor.
Hmm. Yep.
And I think Arlington, from what I've learned, is that 2 days before those in America came to investigate, like what you said, they had those other one of the three guys that we mentioned earlier. One of them had called and said, "Hey, this is what's going on. This guy's going crazy." 2 days before their arrival, they found him dead. He had shot
Mm,
himself. And so, just to add to what I've learned, is that they realized after investigating to see if he was really stealing money and being corrupted in regards to tax, he didn't do any of that stuff. He just wasn't a fit leader,
mm.
is what they put it.
So they
But
cleared
they
him of
also learned he was,
corruption.
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just questioning. You're saying they cleared him of the accusation of corruption,
Hmm.
the copper.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they just learned from investigating that this guy was just he was just depressed. He was lonely, and he felt like everybody was against him. And so, and it's like what you said. There's a difference between having someone as a leader versus someone that's military that doesn't care. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't want to say much because I'm not in that situation. So,
yeah.
but
And it was sad. I came across. I think it was how do you call, was it his chef? I think it was his chef that
mm,
found him, and then his wife also tried to provide life support, try to revive him, but
wow,
it was a failed effort. So
wow.
and that's the story of Terun. From what I hear, Leaso, the house is haunted. His spirit still roams, right?
Yes. Yes,
So
I don't is the house still standing? I don't know.
yeah, I'm assuming. Yeah, I haven't been up there, but I'm assuming maybe the area is still up there. So it's kind of interesting. But Samoans are so funny because Samoan said, I read some of the comments of the Samoan said, you, you, you know, yeah, you roam over there, but we also have bad haikus that roam there too. So what are you gonna do
You
by
can go
roaming?
deal with them.
Yeah, like our our spirits will keep you in check if they're Samoans are so funny when they talk about spirits. But going
That's
back to
just pretty
his
sad.
when you were mentioning his derangement, right? When he was starting getting deranged, a lot of
Yeah.
Samoans also said, it's because how you treated our chiefs, right? You treated our chiefs, and therefore, at the same moment, you started experiencing these ma'is, right? Ma'is
Yep.
like For our viewers who don't know what ma'i is, it's Samoans always believe that you're hexed, and you don't ever. It's taboo to mess with the chiefs, especially the paramount chiefs. So that's our story of Terhune. So if you have anything to add later on from our viewers, we're welcome to recover this subject. So I think we're going to
Yeah,
move
let
on
us
from
know.
the governor. So
Awesome.
very
All right,
interesting.
Arlington. All right, what's next?
Let's go. I want to do the awesome massacre because we were teasing Lucy and Steve because their
Yeah.
dad was French. So let's go
What are
to
the chances, right?
the
What are
massacre.
the chances if we find out that there is some kind of relations with his family and hers?
You never know. He's a remaining survivor. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. All right, Arlington, tell us the story because like we only know from the surface level that um we were actually considered as savage, right? Just coming after them and killing these Frenchmen that were coming to shore. So tell us what really happened. What was the real story that a lot of people don't know about the massacre? Because there's got to
Well,
be a reason why our people went out that way.
yeah, if you take a little step backwards, and then the question is, what was the purpose of visiting Samoa? Samoa wasn't really their original stop. They were sent by, this was the time of the race to colonize the Pacific, right? First one there, stake your flag, and it's yours, right? So they heard about Australia, and they were trying to beat the British to stake the flag in Australia and try to make Australia, another one of their colonies, the French colonies. So as they're hopping across the Pacific, they need to refuel, on food and supplies, and they arrive in Tutuila of all places. And the first day they're there's some documentation of what type of exchange that they had. It was a very welcoming exchange, and I think this is where the term "palangi" comes from, right? Where someone's first seen the white folks come and they think the sky is bursted, right? Well, "palelangi." So that's kind of where this terminology comes from. But our people at the time, when they seen these Frenchmen, it's the first time they seen white skin. So they're
Yeah.
thinking these guys are what? They're thinking they're angels or gods because they never seen that skin color before. So they think they're spirits.
So they're just kind of curious, right?
Yeah, and so that's kind of one of the assumptions of why they killed him was um, you can't kill a ghost, you can't kill a spirit, right? So it was attempt to, if I stab you and you're still alive, then you're a spirit. So I think that's kind of one of the interesting arguments that came. Of course, it's just one of the opinions, but the most favorable interaction was the reason why they were killed was um, multiple things that occurred the day prior that led up to what happened the next day, and one of them is the I think it's called deflowering, right? Are you familiar with that term, Leaso? Deflowering?
No, can you tell us what that means? I was going to ask you. What does that mean?
Yeah, it was like a practice in most of Polynesia where in arranged marriage, you want to marry, a virgin. So I think it's either a
Okay.
priest or someone specialized that will will take you, take the young female, of course, behind the scenes, and they will test and see, of course, they're touching the young female to see if there's any blood.
Yeah.
If there's any blood, then it means she's pure. She hasn't been touched or hasn't had any relationships. So it makes
Hmm.
the husband or the soon to be, husband feel confident that, this is a pure wife. But, those are
Hmm.
practices that you've seen across the Pacific. Um, so that was one
And
of the
there's a
events.
reason why you're bringing that up, right? There's a
Yeah,
reason why you're bringing that up. Okay.
yeah. So going back to that our chiefs actually took these Frenchmen and they introduced the girls to that. Of course, any interaction that you have first time is about building alliances. So they looked at these guys as, probably gods or superior. Let's form
Mhm.
alliances, and alliances are made through marriages. So they try to intermarry with these Frenchmen and introducing them to this ceremony. And their assumption is, okay, we invite you. This girl is clean. Here's your bride. And it's documented that some of these Frenchmen actually slept with these young girls. And then what was,
Mhm.
possible happened was Leperouse ordered his men back on a ship because he seen the hostility that was going on at night. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why the Samoans were frustrated, because they just participated in this marriage ceremony. But then now these Frenchmen left these girls, right? Why aren't you taking these girls with you
Mm.
on a ship? We just introduced them in marriage while you're leaving your wife. So, that's just, again, one theory out there among the many reasons why the Samoans were frustrated. And then the other theory is the Samoans, we knew there was an exchange, and what our chiefs exchanged, what was most valuable to our chiefs at the time were our pigeons, right? Pigeons were very valuable to our chiefs. So they gave these Frenchmen these pigeons. And what happened was during an exchange, so there was a group that was with the chiefs on land, and there was a group that was interacting with the remaining crew on the ships. And I guess one of the Samoans got on a ship and he was sort of disorderly, and he he got roughed up by the sailors on the ship, and they either shot him or threw him off, the ship. They roughed him up pretty good.
Mhm.
And the Samoans that were on land and the other ones in the canoes, they were irritated. They seen how the Samoan was treated. That's sort of stirred him up. It stirred him up. But then the Frenchmen were like, "Man, these Samoans, they're bigger than us. These guys are more stronger than us, and they outnumber us." But the Samoans have never seen this type of weapon. Do they know what we can do with our guns and cannons? So how do they demonstrate this weapon that Samoans haven't seen? They thought, we're going to let these pigeons loose and we're going to shoot them, and that will be a
Oh.
demonstration to the people, like, you don't want any of this, right? But that was the one of the most offensive acts to have, because you just shot the most treasured item that our chiefs have, right? The pigeons. So that's another theory of what stirred up, you know, the Samoan people the next day. So all of that happened sort of like, the first couple of days or the first day. And then it was the second day when they decided to return to get water. The Samoans were waiting, right? They were like, oh, okay, we didn't get you
Wow.
the first day. Here's day two. So the second day they went to get water at Asu. They said it was unusual because the day one there was only like maybe a handful to a couple, maybe 20 villagers. But they said the next day, I mean, there were like hundreds of villagers around, but they still didn't sense the danger, and they went to get water. It was low tide, and they just got caught up, and that's where the massacre occurred. The Samoans, you know, massacred their Merasu.
I was years ago back when I was in high school when the museum was still, I don't know if it's still there. It was like that small fale, a small museum by the, I think it was kind of close to the Rainmaker Hotel.
Okay.
So I remember going to that museum and I saw the original clothing of
Oh wow.
these Frenchmen, and I could see how they said that they were a lot smaller and our people were bigger because we're talking about very petite clothing,
Hmm.
and I don't think our 1-year-old babies would fit in those clothes. But yeah, they were tiny men. I couldn't believe that. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. Can you imagine? To them, they were like giants, right? They're like, man,
Yeah.
these guys are massive. And then the women, right? The women were right with them, and I think it was documented at the way the Samoans threw, the way they threw their rocks, it was amazing how far they can launch them and how
Yeah.
powerful those throws are. But it made me think about when I first went to Samoa, and there was a guy, our neighbor, he would get these big rocks, and he's like slinging them up at the coconut tree. He's trying to knock down some coconuts, and you're talking about a tall coconut tree, and he's knocking it from the
Mhm.
ground. I was thinking that's how deadly the Samoans were when they were not ambushing, but they were massacring these palangis.
So I was gonna say, I was just thinking about something very funny. Did they leave our women because they were size 13 in their feet? That's messed up, though. I'm just kidding.
But
Sorry, I just had to add that on there.
so the other thing that they later found out was the missionaries when they came about 1830s when they arrived in
Mhm.
Kukuila, 1836. So what's this question here?
Yeah.
Is it true that the Asu people were cannibals?
I heard
Uh,
about that. Yeah.
yeah. Well, not yeah, but I'm gonna. Uh, how do you answer this? I
Yeah,
know
please.
growing up, like right back home, growing up at Leongi, right at Leongi High
Mhm.
School, we went to school with the Asu kids, and all I know is we always teased the Asu kids, right? That was a joke we always teased them. Was the word is I kangak, right? So like, hey, you cannibal, right? But that was the story we were told that the Asu people, we knew of the massacre, but we were
Mhm.
also told that the Asu people were cannibals. And then the Asu kids, they just kind of look at us and they look down in shame and they say, it's not like they acknowledged it or not acknowledged it, but they knew that was the blemish that was associated with their village.
Wow.
Who was on here
And
that's
here
from Asu?
yeah, and here I am getting irritated when growing up in American Samoa and going to high school, and people will call us the Mau Bats, because we had a lot of bats in our village. So I guess I'm okay with that.
It was actually it was what's her name? She was on this podcast, Naila, right? Naila was from
Yeah,
Taptimu and Asu. I think we asked her that question and she was kind of looking, she had the same look, like,
yeah.
why you have to bring that up? I'm not a cannibal. But to answer the question, I know I kind of have a long way of getting back around, but I wanted to tell the story that we were told and what we always tease the Asu kids.
Mhm.
We were told that they were cannibals, but you hear a lot of the
Mm.
villagers. They said, it wasn't a practice that we did. And one of the things when the missionaries were asking, did they, did they eat these poor Frenchmen? And the Asu people said, no, that's not a practice we do. Like, yeah, we killed them, but we gave them a proper burial.
Mm.
But cannibalism is not what we do on this island.
Yeah.
But then the other thing that we didn't mention also was the Asu people when the missionary asked them in 1836, tell us the story about the Asu massacre, and they said, it wasn't us, the village of Asu. It was the people of Malanga, right? For those who don't know what a Malanga is
What?
a like another village or a group that's visiting. So there was a group of people from Upolu that were visiting Asu, and it was those people, it was the Upolu people who were part of that massacre. It wasn't the Asu people, and that
Wow.
sort of explains why there was a large number of people, right? Because the day before it was just the villagers, which was like maybe a handful,
Mhm.
not that many. But then all of a sudden, the next day, you have like almost triple the population, which explains, yeah, maybe it was the people of the Upolu Malanga that massacred them. So,
Okay, so there's two things I'm thinking about. One is, was the reason why they showed up was because you know how when family knows that we need help and they're gonna come and show up to join the fight.
hmm
Two, Was it because they knew there were going to be, well, yeah, there's going to be a war there, but at the same time, dead bodies to where they can eat them, right? So I don't know. That's what my thoughts are.
Yeah.
Who
No, that's
knows?
very, very interesting perspective. But I like what you kind of mentioned. Maybe the Asu people sent a boat to Upolu
Mhm.
and notified the people in Upolu and said, "Hey, there's these big ships parked out there. Bring some warriors." You know, doesn't seem like they're leaving, but they're parked out there, and
Yeah.
it worked in their favor that they showed up the next day and they got ambushed.
So I wanna just review what we just talked about with the Asu massacre, right? A couple of things that I picked up on here was we have some theories of why they killed them. Was one,
Mhm,
we talked about the pigeon that was the sacred bird for the Matais, the chiefs, and
mhm,
so they that was something that was handled delicately, right? But
mhm,
then instead to show the for the Frenchmen to show our people that hey, because they don't know what these are, these weapons, guns, they don't know that you can they wanted to teach them a lesson by throwing up the birds in the sky and shooting them to scare them off, but not realizing that's something sacred that we don't do something like that. And then,
mhm,
two, another theory is the fact that our girls were given to them virgins, and
mhm,
so once they were given to these Frenchmen, they didn't want them. They wanted to leave and not take them with them, and so that was really pretty much a disgrace, a slap in the face, because these girls are sisters, they're someone's daughter,
mhm,
and they're very precious, they're treasures of our people. And then third, I believe it has to do with the fact that they treated another they were treating our Samoan people disrespectfully, and so our people didn't like that, and because of that, they decided to fight and fight them and kill. And so
mhm.
with those theories, I believe we had about 30 people that died on our side, and a few of them died on, well, I think majority of the Frenchmen died, but didn't some people survive and still stayed back and had business dealt with the Samoans still even after that war occurred?
Yeah, there's a story of I think it was a one of the like an Asian gentleman who survived, and the story is he ended up marrying a Samoan woman, and he actually lived amongst the Samoans. So, and then that kind of proves that the Samoans weren't really savages as they were portrayed, right? They
Mhm.
were humane. They did what they did to kill the ones because of the conflict, but then there's survivors that took care of them, and there's several of them. But the Asian one was one of them that I know is widely known because I think his descendants have come out and explained that yeah, we're their descendants of this survivor. But
Wow.
I know there were probably more, but just they weren't as vocal as this Asian gentleman. So
Mhm.
yeah, there were survivors, and but what's unique about this is the conflict delayed. It delayed Laprousse from getting to Australia because he was trying to rush to get there. He wanted to stake claim and give credit to the French. So some people say, thanks to Samoa, Australia is it's a British colony, not French. So just an argument, but we'll let the historians debate that. The
Yeah,
timeline doesn't really align. Yeah.
and if you're in American Samoa and you see the that uniform, I don't know if they still have it at the museum. Take a picture and send it to us, because I do remember that was back in the late 90s. I went to visit and I saw that uniform. I think a family of one of the survivors sent it to American Samoa and
Mhm.
said, hey, this is, and so hopefully they still have that saved at the museum. So,
Yeah. Well, there was one more interesting thing that was captured by one of the missionaries when he was interviewing one of the Mongas, the chief Monga at the time
mhm.
in 1836. So the chief says, I think it was a medallion or a necklace, and
Yeah.
he handed it over to the missionary. He said this is one of the remnants from one of the Frenchman that was killed. So he ended up turning that over, and I think they sent it back to London, and it's now in the London Museum. So
Wow.
how interesting how that was preserved. So you think 1787, and somehow it was still kept by Monga all the way to 1836. What, almost 50 some years later? You know,
History, I love it.
but that's what our chiefs were back then. It was probably like we talked in the past about the first two Tutuila War, right? Trophies, war trophies. So that was probably a war trophy at the time, right? Because these were pre-Christian contact, you know, mentality.
Hey, I'll take that versus the chopped off ears and the head.
Oh,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely. But uh, there is a monument. There is a monument to honor the Frenchman that's
Hmm.
still in Lasu. But the question always is, why do these Balangis always get monuments? Where's the monuments to honor the Samoan folks who are also killed, right?
Mm,
So
yeah. You know what? I'm
thanks,
wondering if
thanks,
it,
government.
yeah. Look, I'm wondering if the reason why there was no monument for our people is because, like, that was back in the day where we didn't keep records of our family names, right?
Mm,
And so the only names that were saved were the main names, the chief names. So you're under this name, and that's good enough for everybody else. That's probably why they didn't keep a monument. I don't know. They just didn't have records. So
right. And Samoans are probably also afraid of the backlash, the Frenchmen, France sending more warships and so forth. So that's probably why they didn't
yeah,
want to acknowledge them at the time.
I could see that. Yeah.
I think.
All right.
Oh, so to I want to like wrap up the Zazu massacre, but I want
Go
to
ahead.
talk about La Perouse because um his journey was just terrible. Like what ended up, I think after they left Australia, they ended up crashing in one of the islands, and all of the survivors pretty much were lost. So it
Really?
was an ill-fated journey, or if the journey in Samoa didn't kill you, you were lost at sea, you know, somewhere. So
Mm,
that's just the sad part altogether. I think the king of France, before when they had the French Revolution, I believe his last words before they killed him was he wanted to make sure that they found whatever happened to Leperouse and his crew. You know,
wow.
so I think we wrapped up the Yasu massacre. What do you think?
Okay. All right. All right. What's our next one?
Okay, so I think we're coming a little bit to modern history. We've kind of
Okay.
left the Yasu 1700s. Now we're venturing into the 1943. So we're talking about the World War II. So let's go there.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. And is that the one with the
Yeah, Leon,
okay, Leones
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
all right, got it. All right, let me put this up. And a lot of people don't know this, especially those who are currently at Leone. I don't know if it's being shared, right?
Mhm.
Taught there, but this is interesting because I learned this from you, Arlington. I had no idea. So let me just share the picture of the strip. Very interesting. And then also, like when you gave me these topics, I was just mesmerized by the history behind it. All right, here is the picture of the strip.
Brings back a lot of memories, right, Les?
Walking home, fighting on those strips, going on my way from Leone to Mariloa.
So if you can use the your mouse cursor, just kind of show us your path
Okay.
that you Malaya and Leonga kids took to get to Leone.
Oh, yeah. So, all right. So this is the high school. Um, I have to walk from here, going all the way down. So this is the high school past the elementary school, and then this curve here it stops right here at the top, but it goes another mile down to Malailoa. So yeah, it was pretty long. It's a long path.
Yeah,
But
and what
look at how
also
straight.
and what also is showing you guys is the Leonge airstrip, and she's showing you the Leonge half, and she's from the village in Malailoa.
Hmm.
So the folks from Malailoa and Leonge and all the what we call Mao back, folks from Ngua Sekang, all those villages past Leonge, which we call boonies. So they are walking from that direction where Lias was talking about. So
Hmm.
they were walking on the airstrip, which is now just a paved road that
Yeah.
people travel on. Now, for me, like and the Taputimu people. So if you want to show your cursor where Taputimu starts, yeah,
Okay, going down this
yeah,
side.
all the way that way. So that's the other part of the airstrip. So went from Taputimu all the way to the high school. So you have the villagers from Taputimu. They're walking the other half of the airstrip to go
Hmm.
to Leongi High School where her cursor is at. So for those who are not familiar with this story, and if you've attended Leongi High School or Leon Midkiff, so if you want to turn your cursor where Leon Midkiff is at.
Yes, Leonia Mikif is around here.
So Leon Midkiff is a elementary. So now you know that you have walked on part of history, that you walked an airbase, the airstrip. And yes, we did have airplanes that landed there back in World War II. So Tafuna
Yeah.
Airport is not the only um, landing strip that planes landed on. This also was a runway for those aircrafts during World War II. Interesting trivia, right?
Yes. And I believe that there was only two aircraft that landed and took off. Only two. And there's
Hmm.
a reason why, right?
Yeah, it has something to do with, and I'm not quite familiar with the way you know the wind is.
Yep.
I think it has to do with something with the mountains, right? So what's not
Yes, the
seen here,
currents. Yep.
yeah, what's not seen here is the mountains right on by the Tapjimu side, and far below to the bottom of the cursor, I mean bottom of the screen is the ocean side. So
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of
Yeah.
the way the wind travels. The pilots were having so much difficulty trying to land there, so they did two landings, and then I think eventually decided it was too dangerous.
That makes sense because like you can't see it on this map, but right upwards, a couple mile up, there's
Hmm.
a Malailoa, and there's a big mountain up there, and so
I
that
see.
makes sense with the ocean and then the mountain, and then that
Yeah.
just makes for a big current of a wind,
Hmm.
and so that makes sense. Why? But why would you build a land strip? It took you that long to build it, and
Hmm.
then you realize that oh, we can't fly a plane on here. Just I don't know.
Hey,
I don't know.
so
Maybe the engineers are not that smart back then.
don't ask our soldiers those types of questions because they'll ask you the same thing. Why do you drop me in this valley, such a low ground to establish the fighting position when the enemy has high ground? And I'm told to build or fortify myself. So those are very good questions, Lea. So, it's a leadership question, right?
Hmm. You
They
know
say
what?
they say just go find a spot and perhaps that was the best open spot they could find, is my guess.
Right, with a lot of land, flat land for them to use, I guess. Darn, there's a
Yeah.
lot of look, Arlington championship. How many championship have we had during our years,
Uh,
right?
that's the
Football.
hollowed football grounds there, and a lot of folks have
Yep,
played there.
lots of memories here.
Yeah. So that's a little bit of the World War II history that we had. Oh, yeah, there was one thing that did occur around that time, and it has nothing to do with this airstrip, but um, Japan actually did, bomb American Samoa. So for those who are curious, did the war in the Pacific ever reach Kukuila? Yes, and they were
Mm,
also attacked. So,
wow.
and trying to think, people who probably been around American Samoa probably see these bunkers, but you probably don't know they're bunkers because they almost look like trash cans. They look like big trash cans, right?
Yeah, I
Do you remember going to Leala? There's like this big concrete, right? This big concrete, and it's got like a little gap. So that's like a fighting position. So a lot of that you'll see that across the islands, but a lot of folks they look at that and they have no idea what it is. Minority Report. Still a lot of old military ammo being found in that area. See, that's kind of crazy. Thank you, Minority Report. Wow, an airstrip in Leone. I never knew. Good stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, we love sharing some of these
Hmm.
tidbits about Kukuila because Kukuila has its own hidden stories. And as a
Yeah,
matter of
there's so
fact,
many.
Coach Duke, right? Coach Duke was here on our podcast several
Hmm.
months ago, and he actually released a didn't he release a song or something like that about airbase, Leone Air Base? So, but that was another thing.
Oh,
If you're in American Samoa, you'll hear the people around this area they'll call themselves airbase, and you'll probably wonder why do you call yourselves airbase when the airbase is in Kafuma? Well, this is the part of history that you were probably missing, and now that completes your understanding of why the Leonge, Vailo, and Kapkimu call themselves, Kameki or the airbase. High Chief O3, a few of those off villages by the coast. Yeah, thank you, High Chief.
well, let me also add to this because there's so much memories. Just looking at this picture, this is where I first learned how to drive. Dad, I'm confessing right now, I would steal your car early in the morning when you're sleeping just to come on the strip right here and practice driving. Okay, I said it. My hands are clean. But yeah,
You had
that I
those,
never knew Arlington. I never knew about this strip until you mentioned it to me, and you had it on your TikTok page. I was like, wow, I had no idea that was strip for
yeah.
another airstrip. So
So now you have something to tell your kids. You know how we always have our unique stories. uh, I walked over a mountain. You kids don't know what I've done. Now you can say,
no, they
I
don't.
had to learn how to drive on an airbase around the runway. Uh, oh yeah. So Janet was saying she was calling out the same bunker, right, that we were talking
Hmm.
about, and I think that's what others are commenting. Yeah, there's bunkers that located different areas. I used to crawl in the underground cement storage for that old airport. Yeah, I agree. They're fun. They're fun. As a child, like we would always go and play Rambo, and just started. It's interesting because if you're around those villages and you come across those bunkers, you played in it as a kid, but then as you grow up, when I joined the military, I started to think, jungle warfare. As a child, I was actually playing in the live battlefields, right, or
Yeah,
protected fields. So all
back
those
then
Samoan.
mhm.
Oh, go ahead. Go
Back
ahead.
then our heroes were Rambo, right? Rambo and
Rambo.
Terminators. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such good childhood growing up in Samoa because
Hmm.
we always played in the bushes, and that was it. We had those little sticks, and we would go and pretend we were soldiers, and we would always fight each other because we always say, "No, I shot you first. No, I shot you first." And then next thing you know, you're fighting in in a kongabao, beating each other up, and then lick your wounds and shake hands, and then you live
Yeah.
to fight another day, right?
That's how it should be, even to now. I mean, hopefully it's still like that with this generation, but everybody's crying. Crying and not forgiving, so that's weird.
So I think we touched on the uniqueness of that air base, and shout out to all the air base people,
Mhm.
Coach Duke, and all the Vailoa, Leonge, Tutuila air base folks, and the Leonge High School and Leonge Midkiff kids. Okay, so this one let's stay with the topic of the sort of airplanes, right?
Yes.
Let's go to air disasters. How about that?
All right, sounds good. Pan Am.
Yeah, let's do the Pan Am.
Okay, that's just a sad one.
Yeah, for a younger
All right.
generation, there used to be a flight, or yeah, is that what you call them? A fleet called, Pan Am Airlines, or airline. That's what it is, called Pan Am Airlines. So if you're trying to figure out what we're talking about, there used to be, you know, an airline called Pan Am, and they flew just like the route that Hawaiian Air flies nowadays
Mm-hmm.
across the Samoas. And what we're bringing up here is there was a incident that occurred in 1974, and the plane crashed. And how many did we lose there, Lasso?
Well, so there was about 101 passengers and 91 passengers died, I believe.
Hmm.
No, 97 died. Four
Okay.
passengers ultimately survived.
How do you survive something like this, right?
I know.
Okay.
I know.
And what was attributed to this? It was weather, if I'm correct, right? Was it weather or mechanical?
So I have like a sequence, a flight timeline sequence that I'm going to read out just to give
Yeah.
everybody an idea about what was going on during the time before the crash. And
Okay.
so again, these are all documented online and made public. And so these are my notes.
Hmm.
But if you want the resources, let me know and I'll bring that out to you. All right. So this is military time. So we're talking about 2014, right? So 2014 would be what, 8:14 p.m. So
Yeah.
8:14 p.m. it was departed from Auckland. Flight left New Zealand for its first stop in Pongo Pongo.
Mm.
23:11. So that's what?
11.
Arlington,
Yeah.
help me. Was that 11:11?
11 p.m. Yeah.
Okay, so 11:11 p.m. reported to Pongo Pongo approach 160 miles out.
Hmm.
And so the weather was low clouds, light rain, gusty winds. 23:24, so about 11:24 p.m. cleared for ILS runway 5 approach.
Mm.
Wind variable up to 20 to 25 knots. So that really isn't that fast, right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty much normal gust, I believe. So about 11:38 p.m., controller reported a power failure at the airport. Crew still saw runway lights and ILS confirmed still bright.
Okay. So I didn't know about that. I just thought it was mechanical. But I didn't know that the airport lost power.
Yeah,
So,
and
hmm.
so this is what the controller's saying. This is their reporting
Yeah.
saying this is they can't really, so there's something going on. So about 11:39 p.m., winds reported again, gusting 25 knots. Crew acknowledged. Okay, so maybe I don't understand what that means about me. I'm thinking 25 knots as very mellowed wind, not too strong.
Yeah. I'll probably have to do the math on the side. What's the conversion knots to miles per hour? And if someone's quicker online, feel free to throw that to us.
Yeah, let
Just
us know, please.
miles per hour to knots conversion. Back in my pilot days, I would have known Lesso. Back when I was a child and doing my fake plane flying. So 1 mile per hour equals 0.86 knots. So knots, it says it's sort of just below miles per hour. So yeah, 25 miles per hour, I guess,
Okay.
if you would say.
Now, at 11:40 p.m., the co-pilot noted, "You're a little high." I don't know. Maybe he's screaming, yelling. I don't know what the feeling is or the
Mhm.
mode of what he's how he's saying it. But the co-pilot noted, "You're a little high."
Mhm.
Altimeter warning sounded. Crew call minimums. So if you're in aviation and you know what these terms mean, let us know. Shoot us a comment. And so minority, he's saying 28 miles, I believe.
28. Okay, 28 miles per hour. So you think about, well, on the ground,
Oh,
at
High
28
Chief
miles
also
per
said.
hour.
Mhm.
Thank you, High Chief. I think
and
that was
minority.
enough
Yeah,
to damage, the power, right? Um, Enough to damage the airport power, right? Power loss on the island,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
So
Th Yeah. Can you go back to there was another comment that was much longer than that. Someone said
yes,
something about
let me
Pan Am.
go ahead.
Hi, Chief. Pan Am is the saddest and a military plane that crashed at the Rainmaker. Okay. Yeah, perfect. Well, we'll bring up the Rainmaker here shortly, but
Mhm.
the Pan Am, um,
So there
it
was
was a
two
pretty big.
separate planes, right? Two different
Yeah.
events.
So you're saying, Lasso, that the co-pilot saying you're a little too high, and then all of a sudden you're saying on the last one they slam into trees. So which one is it?
Yeah. They're saying like in between 1140 to 1142. That's when the aircraft slammed into trees just about 3,865 feet short of runway, and it
Hmm.
skidded through the jungle, hit a lava rock wall, broke
Mhm.
apart, and caught fire. So
Yeah.
they had only minutes before. I mean, I can't imagine like for him to say like, "Hey, we're a little low," and
Mhm.
then you don't have enough time to react or to make sudden moves or changes. In between 4 minutes, that's exactly what happened. Is the crash.
Yeah.
And so
Just
this
devastating.
is the yeah, this is a picture of that exact plane that crashed. So
Yeah. And to have survivors, it's what baffles me
mhm.
how anyone can survive that. Didn't we have the names of the deceased and survivors? Did you have that? I
Yep, let
thought
me
you.
grab that. Yep, let me grab that for you. And then we have a comment.
Because I wanted to see like how many Samoans were on that flight. And can you imagine, Lasso? Like, so you're now waiting for this flight, right? You're waiting for this flight to land, um, remove some of the passengers who were supposed to get off at Cucuila. That's your
Mhm.
flight to go to California, right? And then all of a sudden you see this plane crash. And I wonder if
Yeah, I
there's
wouldn't
any
want to get on
stories
a
of those.
plane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. What do we have here? Matautia,
Yeah, we have several Samoans name on here.
Louis Kui. So several
I know
Amaparos.
some of Amiparosa family. So
Hmm.
then we have Louis Gui,
Mm-hmm.
Masisiu, Matuatia. There's two.
Yeah, Matuatia. And if there's any of our family members who are viewing the passenger list here, so uh, just wanted to offer condolences. I know it happened in
Mhm.
1974, but we still want to acknowledge, that respect for your family members as we read them off. But we're just curious how many islanders were on this flight.
Then we have Sai, Toilolo, Taniela. And I'm
Mm,
sure some of the Palangi names on there are probably also Samoans too, because we
yeah.
had a lot of Afgasis. Yeah.
So wow, Lily, wow,
Mhm.
just sad, huh?
Oh, and here's the list on the bottom here on the far right. Those are the crew members.
Mm.
So so we have a question.
What year was this crash? 1974 is what we show.
Yep.
January of 74.
Yep. And the flight is Pan Am Flight 806. Yeah, that's.
And I came across this. It was during the 50th anniversary. One of the family members of the survivor, name was Sopo Su'a. It says Sopo Su'a, who lost her grandmother, and the grandmother's name was Telinga Tangatauli. Reflecting on this day, she shared, "Today marks a day I've always been curious about. my nana, Telinga Tangatauli, died on the Pan Am airplane on January 1974 in American Samoa. One story mom shared was that Nana took off her wedding ring and offered to give it to mom, and mom said no, that's you and dad's wedding ring. My granddad was waiting for her to arrive in Samoa. Sadly, she never arrived. Terrible. Just such a sad story to read about. Okay, sorry, I missed that question. The comment that came up. Yeah, it looks like some Tongan and Fijian last names. Yeah, you're right. So different
That's
Pacific
right.
Islanders who were catching that was it Australia, right, or New Zealand, Auckland, right, where it came from.
Yes, Auckland to Pongo to Honolulu and then to Los Angeles.
Yeah. So that was one
Wow.
of the because we had several plane crashes. There was another one that happened, I believe, in 1930. It was I think it's a smaller Cessna light plane. Maybe it was one pilot. So that we didn't bring that one up, but Pan Am was one that was you know a large aircraft with a lot of lives lost. But a lot of people don't know about this one because it's overshadowed by the Rainmaker one, which happened more recent. Well, not more recent, just 6 years later, right?
Yeah,
So
isn't that crazy?
so
So
that's the
87
Pan Am flight.
people.
Yeah, 87 people. That's a lot. Yeah, I agree. And someone can remind me, is there a memorial for this Pan Am flight? 97. Yeah.
Yep. Yep, about 97 and only 4 of them survived. So,
Yeah. My you know who Chris Tossi is, right?
mhm.
So Chris Tossi, they live their house is right there by the current the current runway. And the family always shares that, you know, they're haunted by, you know, that area because, that's a
Mm.
disaster area. So he shares a lot of stories of waking up at night and telling stories of, you know, the restless spirits that roam that area. If I remember correctly, I think it's sort of barricaded, cordoned off, keep people from crossing that area.
Arlington, you're talking about where the crash happened?
Hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah, that's scary. I wouldn't. Yeah.
so let's go to the Rainmaker.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up the video. So give me 1 second. Because the Rainmaker one was pretty interesting. I mean, and it occurred during the Flag Day, I believe.
Hmm. So I'm,
Okay,
I'm looking at here, Flag Day 1980.
in my notes. All right, so I think I just downloaded the video. So let me play it right now. Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay.
Yeah, I remember.
The excitement and joy that filled this day was marred by an unforeseen incident: the crash of a Navy plane in front of the Rainmaker Hotel. That was the same plane that carried the air jumpers. And that is the scene in front of Rainmaker Hotel. The crash was close to the Malay that without saying everyone left. Most of them, especially the students, headed towards the site of the incident.
Just terrible.
Yeah, and
And
letting
imagine
every
what Flag Day is in Kukuila, right? Like That's the only place people are at on the island. You're waiting for taxi races. You're waiting to listen to the Fafifiangas and different
Mm-hmm.
events, and all of a sudden you see this. Minority Report says they hit a cable, the tram cable,
Yeah.
and yeah, they hit the line. Yeah. So I think after it was after he dropped the parachutist, right? They land successfully, but then he continues his flight path, not aware of the cable, and he hits the cable.
Yeah,
And that's
that
the Mount Alava cable. Am I? Well, is
yep.
there another cable other than Mount Alava? um,
Oh.
High Chief says, I vaguely remembered watching this happen live on TV. I was very young too, about 5 years old. Wow.
Oh, we know your age now.
Now that's great to hear that. Someone that actually watched it live. Like I didn't arrive into like we didn't get to Kukuila until '83, so it was a little bit before the time my dad moved us to Kukuila. Luck parachutes, yeah.
Should I
And
go ahead, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna ask, because you know how we have Flag Day and then they always film the Fautasi race from the tram. So I'm
Hmm.
assuming that's the same one.
Yeah, I'm thinking that that's probably what it is because that's the only one that I know of, right? Because that's um
Yeah.
the one that's right where Mount Lava to the other side where
Hmm.
Utule is.
Yeah. And did we say how many were lost in this one? Was just the pilot and the co-pilot, maybe?
So fatality was 8 total, 6 crew members, and then
Right.
2 civilians on ground.
Wow. So that must have been the either Rainmaker Hotel employees or Flag Day observers, right?
You know what? I'm wondering if it has to do with the Rainmaker Hotel. Like, and that's the tram. I don't know if they just rebuilt that just for display.
Hmm.
Okay. Minority said yes, the same line.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of people that were just walking around casually. Um, you don't see the same response like you would see today. People running, getting buckets, trying to distinguish the fire. But just such a tragic loss. But I remember a lot of folks talk about this one. Um, it's hardly ever talked about the other one, the Pan Am one, which had a greater loss, right? So,
Do we have a monument like we talked about that like we don't have any monuments for this case of those who died during the Rainmaker Flag Day.
mhm.
We don't have a monument there. It's up in the hillside. But then we don't. Do we have one for those who passed away from the other incident with Pan Am Flight 806?
Yeah, that's what I was asking earlier.
Hmm.
I don't recall seeing one,
Yeah, that's
but
weird.
I wonder if there's one actually at the airport. There could be one,
Mm,
but then sometimes they have these like monuments that are embedded in the rock, but you hardly ever pay attention to them because you just kind of walk by and like, okay, unless you
yeah,
really
that's
stop
true.
and read something. So perhaps there is one. So those are the two significant airplane crashes that are known in Tutuila. But then we also have some other subsequent ones in recent years. There was another kid, I think he was learning how to fly. He was returning from Upolu, I think, and he crashed short of Cucuila. So that's another one in more recent history. I
Okay.
think that was in 2017, 2018, maybe. So
Wow.
there has been a lot of plane crashes around Cucuila, and I wonder if it's has something to do with you know
The
the
wind. Hmm.
turbulence in that area.
Okay, High Chief just said something.
Oh, there you go. It's by the airport near the road to Fongangongo by Freddy's Beach. Okay, so that
Oh,
explains.
good,
I never
good.
go that direction.
Yeah.
Have you been in
Yeah,
that
me
area?
too. No comment.
Thank you for sharing with that. And
Mhm.
government American Samoa, you're off the hook on this one. We're not bashing you on that one because
Mhm. But that's
you're
good to
okay.
know, right? For those who don't know, like I don't know, it's nice to know that it's out there so you could just, get a glimpse of and pay respect to those who passed away. So,
Yeah. And staying on that subject about lives lost, let's talk about. Did you have anything about the girls that were lost at that Afao Road? Is it Afao or Alao?
is it Aloau? Alofau? Yeah, let
Um,
me take a look. Um,
let's see.
okay. So let me share this with you guys. So people are saying that this is just a myth, it's a legend, but from what I understand, that this is actually really true. So,
Okay,
do you want
yeah,
me to read this, Arlington, or do you want me to?
yeah. So I think the person who wrote this, I think it was a study. They visited American Samoa or Samoa, and they were just going around asking for different stories. And I think when they interviewed whoever they interviewed on this one, so someone told the
All
story and
right.
said it was a myth, right? But I
Yeah.
talked to one of the family members, and it's not a myth. It's actually true. Someone, these
Hmm.
two girls didn't get lost on their journey. But go ahead and read this version because the
Okay.
version that is told on the other site is slightly different from this one.
Okay. So the story took place in Alfonotele, Tutuila. Back when I was in elementary at Alfonotele, we used to sing a song about the story. The character of the story is an ancestor of my mother, Fualole Ki. This happened about 100 years ago. One day, when the whole family woke up, they decided to go watch the cricket game, but they wanted someone to stay and watch the house. They told Salote and Lemalie to watch the house while they go watch the cricket game. When the family left, Salote and Malia were hungry and didn't know what to do, so they left the house and went for a walk. While they were looking for food, they found guava and ate some. Later on, the family came back and they could not find Salote or Lemalie at the house. The whole village of Afono came and searched for Salote and Lemalie, but they couldn't find them anywhere. As the search went on and on for days and months and years, Lemalia Solote was never seen or heard of again. The villagers believed that Lemalia and Solote were taken by spiritual beings because they couldn't find them anywhere. The families of Solote and Lemalia, including village came to a conclusion that these sisters were taken by spiritual beings or root spirits that needed a body to possess or to make their own. All I know is these kind of spirits beings are very powerful and can overpower any living being at will. And so I believe there's a song.
Ke talinga musumusu e whaalongo i le talapa mai a whono i se alanga ua whatilo mai i le ai o soo le ala sopo, o soo foi le vao lo loto, sa loti ma le mulie pele ua ngoto. Yeah, it's hard for me to kind of translate that, but it's something about we heard the story from Afono. Yeah, I'm not going to try to translate that. um, it's a strange world, but it's unique. It's a unique take that what the villagers have. So we can't dismiss what they hold, but it's a sad story that sometimes us as Samoans we tend to follow the old mindset of, oh, it's the spirit world, right? But then you question, was there any search party? Yeah, I think there was a search party, but are there any subsequent researchers? You know how like Unsolved Mysteries does, someone that goes to the field and try to do
Yeah.
studies. But that road to Afono, or there is a path going to Afono.
Mm.
People of American Samoa, the older folks, they mentioned how treacherous is. There wasn't a actual drivable road. It was a steep hike, so they would go,
Mm.
and it was dangerous. And they said late at night, the folks from Pango, they would see, you know, flashlights, and these are the people journeying back up, going back to their village, and the
Wow.
school kids, right? The school kids will trek up and trek down, so they made the journey at least twice. So you kind of understand, the terrain that they're moving in, and even the folks who sort of traversed it now that went back and try to follow their footsteps through these paths, they're also acknowledging there are several times where we almost slipped to our death because you're talking about cliffs, right? So the path is near cliffs. You're grabbing onto roots, a lot of mud and slippery. So I just want to offer out another possibility was if the girls were taking this path going up, you know, they could have possibly slipped on the side of a mountain, and they're probably in some valley, till this day that can't be found. So just wanted to offer, a different perspective of it other than always saying, it was spirits, right? Spirits.
Yeah. Because Arlington, what you're saying is that although people think this is just a myth, that and they're just using the story to teach kids a lesson, right? This actually happened because you spoke with someone who's related to who has a family line to these two girls that passed that well were missing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I talked to one of the family members, and because a name is not a common name, it's used by one family, and I was like, "Hey, this name right here, you know, what do you know about it? Is that something your family talks about?" And he said, "Yeah, that's my." I forgot what he said. It was either his dad's aunt or close relative. So I knew that the story wasn't. I don't think when they reported, I don't think they said it's like a myth, like the story is untrue. I think what they meant by the myth part of it was the spiritual part, right? But I think
Mm,
the story is still true as they explain it. But it was the ghost part is what they're considering this, myth, mythical.
okay. Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
But
Well,
I'm
yeah,
just
then
my opposite view as saying, don't think of it as spirits. Think of it as an accident, right? Unfortunate
yeah.
accident. Because like when Lucy and Sive were on, we talked about the Taputsimu and Vailoa people. Their
Yeah.
belief was it's the spirits that are always pulling you out to sea, right? This was the belief before the surfers came to Samoa, and they were so afraid of the riptides. So every time they got caught in a current, their eyes would just like widen up, like, oh, they would literally scream and say, aikus.
Hmm.
Let's see. The girls possibly slipping off the side of the mountain. Yeah, I can accept that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So the road on the side of your house always gave me chicken skin when walking down it. I agree with you. Try walking that road at midnight. He's talking about the one that goes to that bus stop that goes to Falili. It's part of the village in Vailoa. It's called Falili, and my mom almost got pulled down by a ghost at Lala. Yeah. So these are the stories that we still maintain on islands, right? But you still have to respect the Samoan stories. You know,
Oh yeah.
when your parents tell you don't go, there's an area right here where there's a burial ground. Stay away from it because those there's different burial grounds. Some burial grounds they're friendly, and you can walk around them and nothing will happen to you. But they will tell you this one over here, those ones are vicious. So even if you don't walk on it, but just your presence around it, a lot of people, they get hurt by it. So in Samoans, they tread very lightly around that, so they will respect it. So, but yeah, interesting to hear about the Leala story. But just going back to what we were telling Lucy and Sive, most folks were afraid that the riptides were pulling them out were equated to spirits. But the surfers were the ones that told us that no, that's rip currents and rip tides. And once we learned about rip tides and rip currents, we were now comfortable of letting the current pull us out because
Mhm.
we learned this new thing called swim parallel. Well, swim parallel once you get out of the rip current, and then swim back the other direction. But it took a lot of courage to do so because swimming in the rip current meant going out to the deep, and it was a concept that didn't sit well in our minds because we didn't like swimming in the deep. But once you understood to let the current take you into the blue, and then once the current is out there, now you still have the energy to swim parallel and then come back, come back to shore. So um, a long way around of talking about spirits and trying to debunk the spiritual side of things. So,
Mhm.
but at the same time, acknowledging our beliefs in the spiritual world.
Yeah, and like what Taju said in his comment, yeah, I can accept the fact that, something happened to the girls that they slipped or fell in the mountain somewhere. So,
Yeah,
that's more believable. So,
and the reason why I bring up Leaso, I know we're kind of at our stopping point is we lost another young individual. It was a sophomore, I think, at Leonge, one of the high schools, sophomore age, swimming at these beaches at Leala. And Leala is not an area that you as an outsider will go and test your strength against those waters. We always advise those who are not local, find a local to swim, to tell you the dangers, tell you when to get in the water, tell you where are the areas to swim at and areas to avoid. Um, and never swim there at high tide if you're not local. The locals, they're used to swimming there at high tide. Um, you'll probably only see the locals swim at high tide. It's what they're familiar with. That they understand the dangers. You rarely see any locals drown because that's
yeah.
what they're familiar with. But we heed. We offer our warning to those that are not from the area. Please stay away. Stay away from La La. If you want to swim there and you want it that bad, go there in low tide. Yeah, that's the only guarantee I can give you. But if you really want to swim there that bad, make sure you're with the local and make sure that they have eyes on you. So, Minority Report, a lot of people, died at Lala. That's true. And
Yeah.
kind of what we're emphasizing here, it's not a lot of locals, it's a lot of outsiders. And when I mean outsiders, it's
Yeah.
tourists. It's non-local to the Taptimu, Vailoa, or Puapua area, because those, even the Puapua people are, familiar with the area. So,
Yeah, I kind of like sense a strong spirit when I go to Leala. I'm always afraid to like just swim. I just cannot go swimming at Leala because there's just something spiritual about that area. It's just something sacred about Leala, period. And
yeah,
I feel like some people just ignore their intuition and
yeah,
they just go against what they feel is they need to stay away from and try to take the risk of swimming when they're not supposed to. It's like what you said, the villagers, you rarely see any villagers go out there and get hurt because that's their that's what they're used to, that's their land. And I just feel like they're not going to be trouble because of what they're used to.
mm.
So,
I'm sorry to hear that Minority Report. And it says his aunt died at
wow.
Lala. And
Yeah.
we we look at Lala as this. This is kind of, I'm just sharing what we're told as villagers who are familiar with the area. We're told that our like we agree that spirits do roam Lala, right?
Yeah.
And we respect that. But we're also told that our ancestors, like we have our own ancestors that also roam there because that's part of our village. And we always, like, I've been pulled out a lot of times, and I also feel like all of a sudden someone is pulling me back to shore, and I've had that numerous times, and I can't explain how um I have that tug take me out, but then when I'm exhausted, someone is pulling me back in. And I've had that numerous times. And then every time I come home, you know I silently thank my ancestors because I always say, I'm told that my ancestors are going to protect me. And there were several times when I can't explain this unnatural feeling that someone's bringing me back. Hi, Chief. I felt the spirit best that sliding a rock back.
Me too.
That was the best types of spirit there.
But I stay on the ground. Sorry.
On the disco floor. Oh man, you just made my day. uh, Thank you, Minority Report. So those are a lot of things we sort of share with our non-locals. Um, but we always say, like me and my brothers, we were always rebellious, and our parents always warned us. Our parents always feared going to Lala, and they always tell us, "Don't go to Lala." And it's what's unique about Lala is as much as we knew that we were going to get home and get whooped by our parents because we get whooped every time we go, we always look at each other and said, "Oh, I'm enjoying the moment." But now my mind is like that. What is that feeling going to be like when I get home? But you do it. And then you get home and
Yeah,
you get whooped and you're crying and you're saying, "Oh, I won't do it again." And then next Saturday,
you do it again.
you're there again.
Yeah. You
Or
wait till they
next,
fall asleep and then you sneak out again.
yeah. So, well, Leaso, I think we've covered several unique stories
Mhm,
of Tutuila, and I appreciate our audience for also providing your perspective and adding to our stories. We wanted to share um, Tutuila, but again,
mhm,
our viewers, especially our viewers at Main Samoa, we wanted to let you know again if you tuned in late, we were dedicating our segment to Tutuila because a lot of the
mhm,
Tutuila stories are unknown. So it wasn't a shot at our brothers across the ocean in main Samoa. We know a lot of your stories, and a lot of your stories are told and just shared in many publications. But the Tutuila stories are very seldomly told. So we wanted to share some of the Tutuila history with our viewers. So
mhm.
thank you, Minority Report. Back to you, Lasso.
Yeah, and just wanted to add that we've covered just a few of some of the topics, and there's just so many topics out there that we want to talk about. But we Arlington was doing his research, and he's the culture guy. He knows everything, and so it fascinates me when he gives me topics to look up, and then I start digging into it and start to become more intrigued by the stories and knowledge. Like there's a lot of stuff that I had no idea about. Even some of the places I went and got at had no idea that there were some serious stories about those places I should have never been to, which, you know, it's good to know right now. But it's such a blessing to be able to share our culture, share our history, share what happened in the past, and bring it back to light. Because, like again, the next generation that comes back, or like comes to see this, they get to see and do their own research. And when they're like, "Wow, did that really happen?" And the kids are at Leone High School, I wonder if they know about the airstrip. I wonder if
Hmm.
they know about that. So this is good to bring back to light. So.
Hi, Chief. Thank you very much, Sis Lasso and Chief Tassi. Appreciate you guys. Very, very good show. Well, thank you very much as well. We couldn't do it without our viewers, and you guys complete, most of the stories that we share because your knowledge and intimate know uh, experience in some of those areas that we're not familiar with because we're mainly in the Malailoa, Leonge, Vailo area. So we're more on the west side, but you guys sort of complete the understanding of the Kafungang Uli side. So thank you for sharing your perspective as well.
Mhm. And if there's stories that you would like for us to cover or some unsolved mysteries, because we were just talking about that last night, just me and Arlington, about, what if we dug into some of the unsolved mystery stories about that and within Tutuila and Western Samoa? That would be something interesting to talk about on our podcast. So if there's any topics that you guys want us to dig into, research, feel free to send us a message, and we'll most likely get into it and start, creating our layout for our next podcast. But with that said, everybody, have a blessed evening and a blessed Sabbath day. Brother Arlington, I always call it Arlington because to me he's Arlington. Thank you so much again for everything you do for us, and for getting me involved in our history and our tradition and culture. It's a blessing to be able to have you on. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, have a good night and God bless.
Good night.